Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. Today is Wednesday, December 1st. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for being here for the top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We start off with an update on a tragedy that's impacting our near neighbors in eastern Michigan. Authorities are now saying that a fourth person has died after a 15-year-old student is accused of shooting people at a school in eastern Michigan. This happened at Oxford High School in Oxford Township. It's a small community of 22,000 people. It's about 30 miles north of Detroit. What authorities are saying is that the gun that was used by this 15-year-old suspect was purchased by the boy's father just 4 days before this shooting happened on Tuesday. The 15-year-old sophomore is accused of opening fire at the Michigan high school, killing 3 students immediately, and now authorities saying a fourth person also died. 7 other people were wounded, including a teacher. The victims who have died are now identified as Tate Meyer, a 16-year-old student, Hannah St. Juliana, a 14-year-old student, Madison Baldwin, a 17-year-old student, and Justin Schilling, a 17-year-old student. Several of the victims are also now facing several life-threatening injuries. That's including one 14-year-old girl who is on a ventilator at the moment. The teacher who was hit with a bullet has been released from the hospital. That teacher was grazed with a wound on the left shoulder. Oakland County Under Sheriff Mike McCabe said at a news conference that he did not know the motives for the suspect's attack. We will bring you more information as we have it. Of course, this is a developing story. Now, last week, we saw 3 men held accountable for the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, and this week, GoFundMe has removed several fundraisers for one of the people who was convicted of his killing. Now, less than a week after he was found guilty, it was the fiance of one of the convicted killers who had created a GoFundMe page to try to raise money for the legal costs for an appeal for William Roddy Bryan. Now, GoFundMe deleted the page a short time later. Bryan, along with Gregory McMichael and Travis McMichael, were found guilty of murder in Arbery's death. That was last Wednesday, just a week ago. Bryan was also found guilty of aggravated assault with a pickup truck, false imprisonment, and a criminal attempt to commit a felony. A spokesperson for GoFundMe did confirm that it removed 3 fundraisers for Bryan before any money was raised. This is a company policy, they said. This was not an individual choice. There is a company policy that prohibits raising money for the legal defense of any violent crime. Bryan's attorney, Kevin Gow, told First Coast News that he does plan to file an appeal regarding the verdict as soon as possible. Now, across the country, across the world, people are paying attention to the Omicron COVID-19 variant. We do now have one confirmed case, at least, here in the U.S. It's a person in California, is the first U.S. person to be identified with the case of the COVID-19 Omicron variant. The White House announced that today. The Biden administration, may I remind you, it moved last month to restrict travel from Southern Africa. Now, that's where the variant was first identified. Not necessarily where the variant originated, because we do have information that it was identified predating that announcement in South Africa in at least one other country. Now, with it here in the U.S., clusters of the Omicron variant have been found in about 24 other countries. Dr. Anthony Fauci said today at the White House that the person who was determined to have the COVID-19 Omicron variant in California had recently returned from South Africa on November 22nd and had tested positive on November 29th for the Omicron particular variant. Dr. Fauci said the person was vaccinated but had not yet gotten a booster shot and was experiencing mild symptoms. Dr. Fauci also said that we knew that it was just a matter of time before the Omicron variant would be found here in the U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to outline his strategy tomorrow on how to keep a handle on COVID-19 over the winter. Now, with that, let's turn to the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Ohio. These come from the Ohio Department of Health. We have a big number for you today. The new reported cases in the last 24 hours are 8,944 here in Ohio. Right now, there are 3,889 people in the hospital being treated for COVID-19. Out of those people, 975 of them are being treated in an intensive care unit. Now, there are a lot of legal challenges happening right now against President Biden's plans to require vaccinations of different groups. I'm going to walk you through two of them right now because there are different things happening in different places and there are different aspects of his plan that are being impacted here. A federal judge has now blocked the president's vaccine mandate for U.S. health workers specifically. This is out of a federal district court in Louisiana. This is a preliminary injunction, so these are temporary orders. Let me make that point clear. These are not final determinations. These cases will be determined over the coming weeks and months. So this is against the start of President Biden's mandate that healthcare workers become fully vaccinated against COVID-19. This lawsuit was brought by 14 states. It does include Ohio. And it was U.S. District Judge Terry Dowdy's ruling that takes effect nationwide except for 10 states that are part of a separate order. So this ruling affects 40 states, most states. Biden's administration contends that federal rules actually supersede state policies prohibiting vaccine mandates and are essential to slowing the pandemic. But the judge disagreed. He questioned the constitutionality of the mandate, which did not go through Congress. The heart of these issues is separation of powers. That's the question that's being called upon when it determines whether these things will be able to take effect or not. Now, the judge in this case also wrote that he expects a higher court will make that final decision. So, pause on that for now. Another challenge, the vaccine mandate for federal contractors has been blocked in Ohio and 2 other states. This is because Kentucky's Attorney General won a preliminary court order. Again, this is a temporary preliminary court order to block the COVID-19 vaccine mandate for federal government contractors and subcontractors. This was issued by U.S. District Judge Gregory Van Tatenhove, and it stops the mandate from taking effect in Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Ohio and Tennessee joined in filing the lawsuit, calling the vaccination requirement unlawful and, again, unconstitutional. This mandate, requiring employees at federal contractors to get vaccinated against COVID, was set to take effect January 4th. So for now, a pause on that. The judge in this case wrote that the case is not about whether vaccines are effective, because they are. The case is about whether the government at some level and in some circumstances can require citizens to obtain vaccinations. Now, as we talk about vaccinations, someone who has openly said that he is vaccinated against COVID-19 is LeBron James, but he now finds himself in NBA's COVID-19 protocols. He was ruled out in Tuesday's game against the Sacramento Kings, so that means one of two things almost certainly. He either tested positive for COVID-19 or he had an inconclusive test result for COVID-19. He did say again earlier this season that he was vaccinated. Now, if LeBron James tested positive, he could be looking at a minimum of 10 days away from the Lakers. That's unless he gets 2 PCR tests that come back negative in a 24-hour span. Alvin Gentry, who is the Sacramento Kings interim coach, said he was disappointed because he knows a lot of people were hoping to see LeBron James play. Now, here is a controversial statement. He said that James is arguably the second best player to ever play the game. There is a lot of conversation about who is the best. He said everybody wants to see him play, so it's unfortunate he wouldn't be able to play on Tuesday night. Lakers coach Frank Vogel did not say whether James was experiencing symptoms or not, but he said he got him back to LA after finding out on Tuesday morning that he was going to be subject to the NBA COVID protocols. He says it's a huge loss. It's disappointing. They want the best for him right now. That's where their thoughts are, and they're in a next man up mindset. So we'll continue to let you know what's happening with LeBron James. Another big question. What's happening with Baker Mayfield here for the Cleveland Browns? Well, Cleveland Browns general manager Andrew Berry talked about that today. Now, remind you, this is a Harvard graduate. He is considered one of the most analytically driven general managers in the NFL. But he's talking about getting creative when he talks about analyzing Baker Mayfield's performance. He said this: "It's probably more art than science. I wish I could give you a straightforward answer." He said it's a bit more about feel and looking at things without emotion and being fair to your team. He said also, I think we all know that Baker is incredibly tough, and he's told us throughout moments in the year when he's been frustrated with his own performance, and there have been stretches in the year where he has also played very well. And the reality is, this is Barry speaking, that Baker has worked through injuries, no different from other players on the roster. He expects of himself, and the team expects of him, whether he's on the field, whenever he's on the field, to perform at a capable level and a winning level. That's key, right? Well, so he was asked if he feels that Mayfield is the Browns' quarterback for the future, and Andrew Berry said, well, with Baker, especially from a long-term perspective, you really try to take a big picture. Really, with any player, it's about the body of work really over several years, and also taking into context the environment of particular individual situation. We've seen Baker play a lot of good football here. We've seen Baker play good football this season. He added, we expect him to play his best football down the stretch here after the bye week. And as a reminder, Baker Mayfield, this is really a pivotal time for him when it comes to what a contract might look like if he gets offered a long-term extension here in Cleveland, because he's on contract through the 2022 season. So if he doesn't come out of this offseason with a long-term extension, that would be causing a lot more skepticism and, of course, a lot of conversation around what the Cleveland Browns think of Baker Mayfield and here for the future here in Cleveland. Okay, speaking of the future, if you've been watching The Bachelorette, you know that we had two gentlemen from Ohio on this season of The Bachelorette trying to win Michelle Young's love. The last one to go home was Rick Leach Junior. He's a graduate of Walsh University, and I got to talk with him on my 3 Things to Know podcast this week. And if you remember, and even if you don't know, he revealed some information about his family to Michelle. They had a one-on-one date. They were on a hike. He talked about some infidelity by his father against his mother. His father, no longer with us. And his family had a bit of a chilly response to that. So Rick talks with me about how his family reacted to him sharing those personal details, how he feels about the fact that he has to confront his ex again because he'll be part of that Men Tell All special. That's happening next week. And he made it to the final 8, but he did not get the opportunity to introduce Michelle to his mother and his brother. So for more from Rick Leach, listen to the 3 Things to Know podcast this week. You can find it on every single podcast platform. It's also on the WKYC YouTube page. And if you are excited about the NBA All-Star events coming here to Cleveland in February, it is really right around the corner. Here's something else to get excited about. Tickets are now on sale for NBA Crossover. This is a fan experience during All-Star Weekend. It will be here in Cleveland, and it happens at the Cleveland Public Auditorium. It'll be Friday, February 18th through February 20th. It's a weekend-long exhibit. It brings together the intersection of basketball, culture, art, fashion, music, technology, and entertainment. It promises to be an incredible event. You'll be able to engage in immersive experiences, partner activations, so those branding events there. NBA and WNBA talent will be there. There will be some limited edition merchandise too, art and memorabilia displays, and you can get customized stuff while you're there too. It sounds like it's going to be a very cool event. Those tickets, $30. You can get them at NBAevents.com or on the NBA Events app on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. We've got all that linked on WKYC.com. And that's it for your 3 News Now update today for Wednesday, December 1st. Hey, happy December, everybody. It's December. We are almost through another year, and that is wild to think about. Time is really flying. Hope you guys have a great middle of your week. We've got a couple more days to go to the weekend, and I'll see you back here tomorrow with more 3 News Now.